Would I be the a-hole for not forgiving my husband for cheating on me with his ex-wife? I am honestly a mess and I do not know what to do, so any advice would be appreciated. I, 27 male, and my husband, 37 male, have been married for 3 years, dating for 6. He has an ex-wife, 37 female, which he divorced a year before we met. We have a son, 7 male, who was adopted after we got married and who I love as my own child, because he is. I know my husband, Peter, fake name, is bisexual. I have no problem with it and I had no problem with his ex-wife, Alison, also fake name. I did have a problem with his family as they are a bit homophobic and are always telling Peter he should get back together with Alison. Well, 2 weeks ago, we were at his family's town because it was my son, Jack's, fake name, birthday and we wanted to spend it as family. My mother-in-law decided it would be a good a-hole idea to invite Alison, so she arrived in the middle of the party. I did not want to ruin Jack's birthday, so I stayed quiet. I spent all my time with Jack, playing with him and his cousins at his request. When it was time to cut the cake, I noticed Alison and Peter were not there, so I went inside and looked for them around the house. I found them in Peter's old bedroom taking their clothes off. I stood there in shock for a moment, but then I left and went back to celebrating Jack's birthday. Part of me wanted to scream and cry, but I also was in shock and I refused to make Jack's birthday about me. We cut the cake and opened the presents. People were already leaving when Alison and Peter came back. Peter took me aside and started saying that I should not have cut the cake without him present, and it was disrespectful. I stared at him and just said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I just thought you would be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants." He got quiet, so I took Jack and left the house to go back to the hotel. Once I put Jack in bed and made sure he was asleep, I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. I called a friend and he tried his best to console me. I only calmed down in the morning when I took Jack for breakfast because I did not want him to see me like that. I am now watching him play in the park and I do not want him to suffer. I do not want him to have a broken family. I do not want him to know that relationships are not a happy ever after. Peter has been calling and texting, apologizing for everything, and I am tempted to forgive him. I am tempted to just have my family back. And all my friends are saying that it was just a mistake, that he was vulnerable and Alison is his ex-wife. So what am I supposed to do now? I need the advice from people who do not know my husband or me personally. Please, any advice is helpful. Update 1. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your advice and I want to explain some things before the actual update. But thank you for opening my eyes about my situation. Peter and Alison did not notice me when I saw them. There was music very loud downstairs and they were not facing the door. I did not stop them because I was in shock. I just stood there for a moment and I heard my son, so I unconsciously focused on him. I was pretty much in autopilot. Peter did not come to the hotel with me because I changed to a different one. He did try to follow me, but I took a taxi and left. As far as I know, he is staying with his parents and Alison left. We met when I was 20 and he was 30. We started as friends, and we ended up dating. Yes, we are both men, and no, I did not feel manipulated or groomed by him. Those were the most asked things and I did answer some comments, not all. Now on to the update. I did as some of you said and took some tests to discard any sexually transmitted infections or sexually transmitted diseases. The results are coming back in a few days, and I will take another one in 3 weeks to be sure. My son is having a sleepover with a friend, and I decided to speak with my husband. He came by our house. After a few minutes I texted him. He asked about Jack and I told him where he was, then we sat on the couch and started talking. I started crying after a few minutes and he followed after. I asked some simple questions: a when, why, how many times, among others, and this is what I could figure out by all the things he said. It happened for the first time when he visited his parents alone 2 years ago. They invited her. They both got inebriated. He was feeling lonely as I had been more attention to Jack since we adopted him, and they slept together. Nothing happened again until our son's birthday party. He said his mother pressured him a bit and he caved in. I do not believe he did it for that reason, but I do not know. He said he does not love her and I believe him, but it does not negate the fact of what he did. After talking for a while, I told him that I wanted a divorce. He started sobbing and begging for another chance, but I told him that I cannot give him another chance because I would not be able to trust him again, and I do not want that in a relationship. He kept crying and begging for another 30 minutes until I told him that we have to think about Jack and his well-being, that we could stay friends and co-parent him. He got mad, really mad. He started yelling that it was all Jack's fault, that we should not have adopted him, that he is the one who was getting between us. I was crying and really scared. I had never seen him this angry. He hit the table and stormed out of the house. I called the house where Jack is staying at and told them if Peter shows up there, they cannot open the door. After the little episode, I was scared that Peter would try to hurt Jack. I called my friend again, Thomas, and told him everything that happened. He came by and is staying with me until I am better. Right now, I am trying to figure out what to do and how to go on with the divorce. Update 2. Hi again. Sorry for taking so long to update, but it has been a chaotic week and I am pretty shaken up, but I will try to summarize it. My husband has been showing up at my work, following me, and calling me from burner phones. I was afraid he would go after Jack like many of you said he would, but he did not. He said a lot of stuff, but I will try to write the important things. He said that he missed when we were just us, that I stopped paying attention to him when we adopted that Jack, that I was not his anymore. He said that he missed how dependent I was on him. I was very insecure when we met, but I started working on my issues when we adopted Jack because I did not want to be a bad example for him. When we got married, I used to get sick all the time. I was weak and tired, so he would take care of me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The doctors could not tell what was wrong with me, and I did not get better until a bit after we adopted Jack. I guess that dependence it is what he missed. Yesterday, he followed me to work and started screaming that I was his and that we made vows to stay together. We had to call security and he waited for me next to my car. I panicked and took a taxi home. He keeps messaging me and showing up to our house. I took a few weeks off work to be with Jack, although he is taking this better than me. I made an appointment with a therapist for him, and when the divorce is finalized, I will go to one myself. I have been debating what to do, so I will update when something happens. Update 3. Hi guys, this is the final update for anyone who is interested. I'm only doing this update to give it some closure and because some people messaged me to ask for it. So here it is. This has been a really difficult time, but I am almost divorced. I have primary custody of Jack, and I have got a restriction order against Peter and Alison. I will try to be quick, but a lot happened. So, after I made the post, Peter kept calling and stalking me. I did not know what to do until I started packing Peter's stuff and I found a box of pictures of me before we met, like 3 or 4 years before we met, while he was still married to Alison. I never knew why they got divorced. He just said it was too painful to talk about, so I never asked. But I swallowed my anger and sent Alison a message to ask her about the pictures, and she told me that they got divorced because she saw him stalking my Facebook several times and found the same box I did. He called it an innocent crush and curiosity, but she thought he was cheating on her and they got divorced. A year later, he met me, but Alison always thought that I was the side piece. I read a few comments saying that I maybe was sick because he was making me sick. I do not know if that is possible. I do not really know. I mean, the illness were bad enough to make me stay in bed, like having a bad cold, but I do not know. I stopped digging. After I found the pictures, I confronted Peter without Jack in the house and he seemed, I do not know, proud. He kept smiling and saying that all he did was for us, that it was love at first sight, and we were destined. He was just making sure it happened. Apparently, we had met before we became friends. I remember meeting him at a party through some friends, but we met before, as teenagers. He and I lived in close-by towns and my school made some trips to the towns nearby, and we met on one of those trips. We were something like friends, but only for a summer because he went to college and I soon forgot about him. But he found my Facebook, and the story continued. I was horrified, to say the least. He tried to console me and tell me that it was fine, that he did it out of love, and that if only we had not adopted Jack, everything would be fine. I was bawling my eyes out. My entire marriage was a lie. He said that he only slept with Alison because he knew that it would get my attention and that we did not have to go through with the divorce, that I know he loves me and that is it. He promised to be a better dad for Jack if I made more time for him. He told me to quit my job because he earned enough to take care of all of us and that would give me more time with him. I was in shock and then he hugged, calming me down. I admit that for a moment, I allowed him to hold me. I allowed myself to consider his proposal, but I kept thinking about his lies. It was not about the cheating, it was the stalking, the lies, the obsession. It creeped me out, so I tried to pull away and tell him I would go through with the divorce. He refused. He hugged me tighter and screamed that I needed him, that he could protect me, he could take care of me, he could save me, that I was his husband and only his. I was terrified. I slapped him and pulled away, yelling at him to get out of my house. He did not. He just kept screaming and holding on to me until a neighbor heard the commotion and called the police. I filed a restriction order and been taking care of Jack since. During the divorce proceedings, Peter asked for 50-50 custody, which surprised me because in all this time, he has not cared about seeing Jack, but I later found out that it was only because he would get to see me and talk to me regularly. He has been contesting every single thing about the divorce, trying to make it last longer than it has, and it has been working. He offered to give me child support even though we have 50-50 custody. He allowed me to keep the house, and other stuff. So, that is what has been going on in my life. The only happy thing that happened was Halloween. Jack insisted on dressing up as Spider-Man and me dressing up as Tony Stark, so we did, and I took him trick-or-treating. It was the most adorable sight ever, and I knew I made the right choice with him and Peter. I am sorry for such a long post, but this will probably be the last update. Thank you so much for the advice and for hearing me rant. Update 4. I know I said that my last update would be the final, but I am so very confused right now. So, we are finishing with the divorce proceedings, but Peter's attitude has given a 180-degree turn, and I do not know if I'm crazy or what. The last time I posted here, Peter was basically saying that our son was the reason for our divorce and only wanted custody of him to see me. We will. Now he is being father of the year. A friend of mine, Dean, fake name, is handling the drops and pickups of Jack so that I do not see Peter. At first he was mad and called me because he thought he and I were dating, then he did not care. Now, I thought that he would treat Jack badly and I kept a very close on him, ask him questions about his father, how everything was going, etc. Jack told me that he has been acting like the perfect dad. He is nice, he plays with him, helps him, and is completely different from before. I have talked to Peter and he told me he was going to therapy, which I am happy for, and he has messaged me, apologized, and told me that we should try couples therapy. I declined and he has not asked again, but he wants us to meet up at his house tomorrow to discuss everything that happened. He said it was part of his therapy. I have not gone to therapy. I cannot afford it right now, but Jack is. I cannot say I do not miss Peter because he was a great partner and husband before everything went down, but I do not trust him after all that happened. So, I do not know what to say to him tomorrow or how to express how I feel about it. Is it wrong to miss him? I mean, this whole thing happened because he slept with someone else and I know that he has not seen Alison and will not be seeing her again because she is also done. Should I just move past it? Jack is also saying that he misses the three of us together. He has cried to me about it more times than I can count and asks why I cannot forgive his dad. What the hell am I supposed to do? To feel? It is a short update. I guess that I'm just trying to vent without judgment from the people I know and give an update to those who asked it. Thanks again for all the support I received in my other posts. Update 5. Okay, I'm going to clear up a few things before I give you the actual update. I do not answer comments. I prefer to answer every question here instead of answering the same question separately. 1. I should have explained it better, but my restriction order was a temporal one, only for 30 days. 2. Peter was a very good husband. I read that he was abusive all throughout our relationship. He was not. And he was a good dad to Jack. Everything went to hell when I caught him cheating. 3. What Jack was saying was not told by Peter. I talked to him and I made sure. He just has been missing our life before. 4. Peter would never touch Jack like some of you suggested. My case may make it seem like he could, but he never even touched me or groomed me. I did talk to Jack, just to make sure, and he reassured me nothing happened. Now, onto the update. I did meet with Peter. Most of you told me not to go to his apartment, so I told him to meet at a park, take a walk, or something. When I saw him, he was different. He looked very depressed and he hugged me when he saw me. He would not stop apologizing for what happened. We started talking and walking. He did not justify what he said or did, but he did say he regrets it. He said that he misses me and misses being together. I asked about Alison and he told me that he cut her and his parents out, which I believe he did, and then I asked about what he said about Jack. He basically said that he resented Jack for a long time because my attention was not on him anymore, and it was selfish, but he was too used to be the center of the world, so when it suddenly changed, he could not take it. He told me he loves Jack, but that he sustains that if giving him up meant to have me back, he would do it in a heartbeat. We talked for hours while Jack was with my friend. I cried a lot. There were things I decided not to ask, like if he was giving me substances that made me sick like some of you said, because I honestly do not want to know. We have been texting these past days, mostly about Jack, but I am considering family therapy, mostly to help Jack cope with everything. The divorce is still happening, which Peter was not too happy about, but he was not angry anymore, just sad. I also recently met a guy in a coffee shop and we have been texting a lot, so I will see how that turns out. And that is it for the moment. I will update you guys if you have many questions or if something else happens. Update 6. Hi, guys. Sorry for taking so long to update. A lot has been going on and I forgot about the account, but today is my cake day, so I decided to give one last update. And this time is really final unless something extreme happens and I need advice again. In the last post I talked about Peter and I talking, Jack doing better, and I mentioned I met someone. We have been going to family therapy, Peter, Jack, and I, and Peter has gone to individual therapy and so has Jack. They are both doing better. It was better explained to Jack the terms of the divorce. I did not mention the cheating, Peter did, but we told him that we loved him and this did not mean we would not see him as much. The divorce was finalized a few weeks ago and Peter ended up moving back with us. It was a mutual decision, as we both thought it would be stupid to pay for 2 different housings and have Jack move around. We wanted to give him some stability. I have actually reduced my work hours to spend more time with Jack and we are seeing if I can become a stay-at-home dad for a while. The guy I met, we had been seeing each other a bit here and there. He is a really nice guy, but then I learned he was a friend of Peter's. None of us knew who the other was, and I decided to cut it off to avoid uncomfortable meetings or anything like that. My relationship with Peter has improved. The divorce is finalized. Do not worry about that, but he has been putting a lot of effort into making it up to me and Jack. He has destroyed all the pictures, as far as I am aware, and he promised to never do anything like that again. I believe him. People may call me naive for that, but he seems sincere. One of the questions I was asked the most after one of my updates is why I had been so insecure and vulnerable at the start of our relationship that I ended up dating a man so much older than me. Well, I do not have a good relationship with family since I came out, and I have very to almost no friends, so when I met Peter, I fell in love almost instantly. He is charming and nice and sweet. I was just smitten. So that is the update. I do not know if this is good or bad or whatever. I will answer questions in the comments this time because, like I said, I will not make an update and I do not want people to stay worried or misinterpret things. Thank you a lot for the support and advice. Commenter asked, how did you meet on a school trip as teenagers when your husband is 10 years older than you? If it was the summer before he left for college, were you not 8 years old? Opie responded, no, he was already in college, he just left again. He was spending the summer at his hometown. I am sorry for not explaining better. Opie commented, Opie clarifies on how Peter had the pictures before he left for college. He had pictures from before I thought we met when I was 20. And he was already in college, he was just spending the summer in his hometown. We met in the summer when I was about 14. I am sorry for the messy writing. English is not my first language. Original poster has an emotional affair while his wife is abroad. My wife and I are long distance. She works abroad. I take care of our sons, 4 and 3, and do odd jobs. Originally we lived with her, but our kids ended up put in a dangerous situation, and I did not want that to happen again. Quitting her job was not an option in her eyes, so I moved to our home country with the kids while she stayed. She visits us a few times a year. I moved in with close family friends. It was a hard and painful decision. I had a lot of resentment over my wife prioritizing her job over our family. But I love her. I could not imagine not being with her. I thought about divorce, but we decided to try to work things out. The other woman was my friend when we were little kids. After my mother died, I left my hometown and moved in with my dad and did not see that friend. But I stayed connected with some other people from that town throughout my life, and when I moved back home with the kids, I started visiting my hometown more. To see my mom's grave and visit my old neighbors. When I met my old friend again, I was excited to see her, but I am nostalgic for everything from my childhood. It started out innocent. I was just happy to have another connection to that part of my life. Anyway, she has a son too who is 6, and so we ended up taking our kids to the park together while we had a coffee and caught up. It was innocent, and I told my wife I had reconnected with her, and my wife was fine with it. She jokingly asked if she should be jealous, but she did not mean it. She trusted me. So I feel so terrible. We met up a couple times a month from then on. I do not really know when it lost its innocence. But I realized I started becoming infatuated with her. We would hug every time we met up and before we left, and I would feel so wistful when she would hug me. She would start talking about how her ex mistreated her and her son, and I felt so protective. She started making comments like, my son is so good with your sons. It is like they are brothers. And I talked to her about some of the stuff that bothered me about my relationship with my wife, and she sympathized. I realized that I enjoyed the attention, and I found myself entertaining fantasies that I was with her instead. I kept thinking about if I had never met my wife and had instead moved back home and reconnected with my old friend, and we would somehow have had our same kids only with each other, we both could have been happy and been spared so much pain. If I am trying to be objective, she is a better match for me than my wife. She puts her kids first. She appreciates me for who I am. My wife does too, but I feel like me and the kids are always an afterthought for her. Even when she is home and spending time with us, she is always thinking about her job. My wife is a good person and she does good work. But her job traumatizes her, and she was already traumatized before she started it. She started doing her job to cope with her past, but she is also re-traumatizing herself over and over. And my kids and I pay the price. I am not trying to justify my actions, I am just trying to explain. My childhood friend was always complimenting me on my looks, how good of a dad I am, my physical strength. It is like she appreciated the unique things about me. And I feel like my wife loved me just because I was there for her. Like she would have loved anyone who loved her, and I was just the only one who did. It was not always like that, but that is how it started to eventually feel with my wife being so distracted by her job all the time. I did not really notice it until I reconnected with my friend and noticed the contrast. I should not have let things get that far, I know. But at first it was just an occasional thought, and I just brushed it off as intrusive thoughts and telling myself, yes, everyone has inappropriate thoughts, but what matters is your actions. But I just let it go too far. In hindsight, some of our friendly banter, it was really more like flirting, and it was not appropriate. That is an action, not a thought. Anyway, today was a reality check. She said she wanted to talk to me about something serious without the kids there, so I let my other friend who I live with babysit and met up with her. And she basically confronted me with the fact that we obviously have feelings for each other and said I should leave my wife for her. But it was like immediately I realized the amount of nonsense I was feeding myself and her. I instantly felt so bad. I did not deny having feelings, but maybe I should have. She kept insisting I think it over, and when she saw how upset I was, she said she would let me think it over, then left. I should have told her, no, there is nothing to think over. I love my wife and I am not leaving her. But I did not say anything. That in itself is weighing on me. I need to tell my wife. I know. I just do not even know where to begin. Next time she is coming home is October. I feel like this is the kind of thing to say face to face, but I do not want to wait that long. And I do not want her to come all this way to have a nice time and ruin it. I could leave the kids with my friends and go visit her. But on top of the money issues and logistical issues, even that thought makes me sick. I keep imagining her smiling and being delighted to see me, and then how devastated she's going to be when I tell her. I cannot stop thinking about her face. I feel sick. I do not want to tell her at all and just never see my childhood friend again. I'm also mad at myself for letting my stupid fantasies ruin a friendship and a precious memory, but I know it would be wrong to keep seeing her and impossible to just be normal friends now. But I know honesty is the best policy. I owe it to her to be honest. I just do not know what to do. I feel so wrong and stupid. I do not want to tell my friends. I think one of them would be really angry at me for almost cheating, and the other might actually encourage me to leave my wife. I feel like I need someone to tell me what to do because I cannot process. Opie commented, okay, these comments are overwhelming and I need to sleep. Tomorrow I am going to talk to my friends about what is going on and, after being yelled at probably, see if they will be able to watch my kids while I visit my wife and tell her what is going on. If not, I can probably ask a few other people. If not, then I will just tell her over Zoom. I am also going to text my childhood friend that I do not want to see her again and then block her. I am not going to leave my wife. If she leaves me, I am going to stay single. I am not going to date my ex-friend. I will always love my wife, and I do not think it would be fair to anyone for me to date anyone else while I still love her. To stop from having to answer the same questions over and over, my wife is an aid worker. She does not do it for the money. She does it because she believes God called her to do it. I do gig jobs and sometimes construction. I choose to work more flexibly and spend more time with my kids. I put my wife through college. I am not freeloading off her. I am kind of freeloading off the friend I live with. I will admit that. But we are all happy with this arrangement. The reason I left with the kids is because we got carjacked at gunpoint. My wife changes location a lot, so living somewhere safe but still closer to her is not really an option. It is either travel with her officially through her organization, or stay put somewhere. I do not think my childhood friend originally intended to cheat with me, but I guess it does not matter anymore. Opie commented, everyone telling me to get a stable job so my wife can come home, you misunderstand. You think my wife and I have not spoken about this? She is never going to quit her job. She made that very clear. Her job is her priority. I promise you she is not doing it for the money. I am not forcing her to do it by refusing to work more. If she said she would even consider quitting if I found a more stable job, I would do that in a heartbeat. Anyway, I talked stuff over with my friends. They were understanding. The plan is to fly over and see my wife next weekish, but we still have to make arrangements. I thought about contacting my wife's boss to see if we could do a surprise visit, but it seems like it would be so cruel to show up and surprise her and make her happy to see me only to break her heart. So instead I called my wife saying everyone is okay, but I have something bad to tell her that she should hear in person, and I'm going to fly out to see her. She said I should just tell her because otherwise she is going to worry about it the whole time. So I almost did. But then she said no, do not tell me. I want to see you. So I did not. Update 1. First, I wanted to thank everyone who commented civilly, regardless of your opinion. I especially appreciated hearing from people who had been in a similar situation or in a similar situation to another person I mentioned. I was not thinking very straight at the time, and I do not think I thanked everyone properly, but it was very kind of you to take the time to share your perspective. The other thing. I should have said something at the time, but a lot of people bash my wife and I did not defend her as much as I should have. So I'm going to set the record straight now. First of all, people were saying she was cheating on me. But she would never, ever do that. She is honest and loyal, and a much better person than I am. Second, people were saying my wife is negligent and does not care about me or our kids. This is also wrong. She is very loving. Yes, she is busy with her job. But she says she thinks about us every moment. And when she is home, she spends as much time with me and the kids as she can. She does get distracted and think about things at work that stress her out, but that is because she sees things that get to her. It is not because she does not care about us. She is not like half the parents out there that ignore their kids because they are distracted by their phone. People were also bashing me in a way that I think was kind of over the top, but honestly, you can bash me, but do not bash my wife. Me having problems in my relationship does not mean she deserves to be bashed. I actually showed the post to my best friend, and she pointed out that a lot of you were probably just being sexist. You attacked my wife and said she did not care about me or our kids because she does not get to see us much. But my friend pointed out that there are a lot of jobs that mostly men do that mean they do not get to see the kids much, and no one says that they do not love their kids and need to quit. So for everyone who said my wife does not love our kids, would you say the same to dads who are in the military, truck drivers, work on oil rigs? Would you say that they are all definitely cheating on their wives? Or tell their wives that they should leave them? If not, you are being sexist. And for everyone who told me to get a better job so my wife can come home, would you say that to a woman who is married to a guy who does one of those jobs? For everyone saying me and my wife should not be married or have kids because she is an aid worker, do you think there should not be any aid workers? Or do you think no aid worker should be allowed to get married and have kids just because of their job? You realize a lot less people would be aid workers if it meant they could not have a family, right? You do not make any sense. Anyway, I saw my wife and told her everything, and we actually had a nice visit. She was glad to see me in spite of everything. And she insisted I not tell her anything bad until after she showed me something. Which was confusing to me, but I agreed. Anyway, it was a little waterfall. And it was beautiful. She said she visited the waterfall whenever she got a chance and it reminded her of me, and she wished she could show it to me every time. I nearly cried when she said that. I almost could not even tell her after that, but I already told her I was going to tell her something bad, so I had to. Anyway, we sat there by for a while until she said she was ready to hear my bad news. So, as much as it killed me, I told her everything that happened. She tried to be calm and understanding, but I could tell she was hurt. I almost wished she would have yelled and slapped me. But she just thanked me for being honest. She asked what I was going to do. I said I was not going to stay in touch with my former friend either way, but I hoped she would forgive me and come home to us in October like she planned. She said I was already forgiven and asked me for more details about what exactly happened and my feelings, which I did my best to answer honestly. It was hard though. I could tell she was getting more and more upset. Eventually she just said okay, and we walked back to her base without really talking at all. That night we talked more. She knows it is hard for me to live the way we do, and she just asked me again if I was sure I still wanted to be with her. I told her I knew she was not going to quit her job, but I talked about how one of the hardest things is that even when she comes home, her mind is on her job and it is hard to see how sad and stressed she always is. She said she would bring it up in therapy and try to work on being present in the moment with her family. She kept pressing me on if there was anything else she could do better besides quit her job, and I told her how I felt about how sometimes it seems like she only loves me because I love her, and I could be anyone. She cried, apologized, said it is not true, and told me as many specific things she could think of that she loves about me. I did the same for her. She said she was glad we talked and glad I was willing to keep working on our marriage, because from the beginning when I told her I had something bad to tell her in person, she just assumed I wanted a divorce. She said she is always worrying I'm going to leave her, but she is grateful for every day I do not. I promised her I do not plan to and told her I worry the same thing sometimes. It was a really good conversation. The other days, I went to her job site with her for a bit and helped out with a few things. The local kids were teasing my wife about me, which was adorable. Things are not perfect, but they are going to be okay. Also, I know a lot of people said that my wife should leave me because what I did was as bad as a physical affair. And, confusingly, a lot of people said I did nothing wrong. I think it is somewhere in between. I did something wrong, but I did stop it before it got that far. And a lot of other people say I should divorce my wife. But I am not divorcing her. She has her flaws, but she is also one of the best people I know. All of her flaws are because she has been through things that I cannot even imagine. I chose to love her in spite of the things she cannot give me. I will always love her. I am not someone who can stop loving someone. Even if we divorced, I would think about her and wonder if she was okay every single day. I cannot be in a relationship with another person even if I wanted to, because I would never be over her. It would not be fair to them. It is my wife or no one for me. Hi. This is sort of an update of my previous posts in this subreddit. You can see them on my profile. The subreddit will not let me link them, but it is also a lot of other stuff to get off my chest. I made a post here a while ago. It was about how I realized I was in an emotional affair with my old friend while my wife was working in the Philippines. That issue is resolved. My wife forgave me. I have not spoken to my old friend at all anymore, and I am much more careful with my other female friends. However, some of the comments I got on my last posts have still been weighing on me. And my wife is home now, and she had a lot of big news that I want to get off my chest. First, the good news is my wife is pregnant again. And I am happy about it, in spite of everything. I know. Some people in my last post were asking if I was using protection to avoid bringing more kids into the world. And honestly, no, we did not. and I did not want to admit that for obvious reasons. I do not have any defense for that other than I am stupid. The other major thing is that my wife probably has obsessive-compulsive disorder. Basically, my wife realized she was late and probably pregnant a long time ago, but originally did not tell me or take a pregnancy test. She said it was like there were two different people in her head, and part of her was screaming to go get things figured out, but the part of her that actually had control refused to do anything besides carry on as usual. She was too scared to take a pregnancy test and get proof that she was pregnant because she knew she would not be allowed to go on her next assignment because of Zika virus. Basically, it was a lot of screaming at herself to do something about it before she finally got the courage to tell her therapist what was going on and actually take the pregnancy test. So even though she got pregnant in July, she has not had any kind of care or anything yet. Also, I guess she had been hiding a lot of things from her therapist because she knew the therapist would make her take a break if she knew exactly what was going on in her head. So she was not honest with the therapist about how she felt compelled to do this job, how she felt when she was not doing it, etc. But she knew she needed to do right by her baby, so she finally told the therapist about the pregnancy, how she was having such a hard time doing anything about it, and then everything else came out. My wife described to me a bit more about how it feels to be in her head. It is not just that she thinks God wants her to do her job. The way she said it basically, she constantly thinks about all the bad things happening in the world, everything terrible that she has ever seen, every time she could have helped someone but did not even if she had a very good reason, and it makes her feel like she has to be working. She thought all these thoughts were God speaking to her, but she did not tell the therapist that because she thought she would not understand. She told me when she finally told the therapist, she basically asked her if she thought God was loving, and if so, why God would want her to constantly be thinking about things that made her miserable. That question finally made my wife open to accepting that she might have a mental illness rather than just having God talking to her. She is home now, a couple of weeks earlier than she was supposed to come, so she can get prenatal care as soon as possible and a more in-depth mental health assessment. I guess her therapist just thinks she has obsessive-compulsive disorder but cannot actually diagnose her or prescribe her medication or anything. I feel so bad for her and like I failed, too. I feel like I should have tried to dig with her more about what she was feeling. My wife was more open with me than the therapist about her thoughts, and I feel like I knew something was wrong. But I assumed she was telling the therapist everything too, and that the therapist was helping to the best of her ability. And as much as I am happy that I hope this means things are going to be better now, I know my wife feels awful and that makes me feel awful. Basically, she was really devout and religious growing up, but after some stuff happened to her she kind of lost her faith and felt like if God existed he did not approve of her. I met her around then and she was definitely in a very dark place for a while. She says that when she started having her thoughts about how she could fix the world, it was really reassuring because she thought she was finally getting her faith back. So it has been pretty crushing for her to not have that feeling anymore. I am hoping her therapist is able to help her with that as well. My wife does not trust religious leaders anymore, so that makes it a lot harder for her to have to go through that. I believe in God, but I do not believe the same things as my wife and I am less devout than her, so I do not always know what to say. I have told her I am so sorry for what she has been going through, and that I am so proud of her for finally going to her therapist for help even though it was so hard. I told her I am glad she was open with me, and I hope she knows she can rely on me for anything she needs. And I told her I am sure God knows how hard it was for her to get help and he is proud of her too. That made her cry, I think in a good way. Anyway, she has been home a few days now, and we are just taking things one day at a time. Prenatal appointments coming up next week, but we are still trying to figure out the obsessive-compulsive disorder appointment stuff. So far we have just been cherishing the family time as much as possible. The best news, my wife says when she is done with maternity leave, instead of going back to work she might try to go back to school. She wants to get her master's and learn another language or two, and she says part of the reason for that is that she would have more choices in her assignments and possibly be able to work with refugees here in the United States instead of traveling all over. That way we could find somewhere to live permanently as a family. She says she is not sure yet and she wants to spend some time figuring things out. But I am hopeful for the first time in a long time that we might be able to be happy together as a family someday. I am really just hoping everything turns out positively. I feel bad for being happy, since this is so hard on my wife, but I really hope it will end up being a positive thing all around in the end. We have told my two closest friends, who we live with, about the new baby, but no one else yet, except Reddit strangers. My best friend is almost as excited as me. She keeps coming to me talking about gender reveal party ideas. Like, randomly in the middle of talking about the election or whatever. We are keeping it from the kids for just a while longer because she is not very far along yet, and if God forbid the baby does not make it, we do not want the kids to be upset. Anyway, that is my big news. Someone asked me for an update, and I wanted to clear the air and get some of this stuff off my chest anyway. Update 2. I have posted here before about a major mistake I made while my wife was abroad working as an aid worker. I have also posted about how we recently found out she has OCD. Her form of OCD was that she thought God was constantly talking to her, telling her to do things, and reminding her of all the bad things that were happening in the world. Anyway, since she found out she was pregnant, she has been getting treatment for it, and for a while things were looking up. I do not mean to be selfish, but for a while I felt like I could have my old wife back. She really was not really like this when we first got together. But it was not just for my sake. I was hoping that with treatment she would be happier herself and also be able to be there for our kids more. However, ever since Trump took office, my wife's mental health has taken a turn for the worst. She has always been completely devastated about Palestine, but when she was at her job was a distraction from it, and when she got home and did not have the distraction, it was rough, but she was actively working on being able to cope. However, when Trump started cutting funding for aid programs, she found out that the organization she works for would be doing layoffs and she might not have a job to go back to. She completely lost it. Her co-workers were giving her updates from the ground. There were a lot of rumors. For a few days she was basically just curled up in bed texting, reading the news, and panicking. I did not know how to support her during that time. Nothing I tried to do for her made a difference. She did not want the kids to see her in that state, so she just kept telling me to go spend time with them. She left her room only once during that time to go to therapy. But then the day after that she left the house without telling me to go protest by herself by walking along the main road holding a sign. Luckily, she did tell my best friend where she was going, and my best friend went with her and texted me what was up. At first, I was just glad she was feeling well enough to get out of bed. However, now she does this more days a week than not. She spends more time doing this than she spends with our kids. I have gone with her a few times. My best friend goes with her a lot. Even if she was not protesting, I would be worried about her walking on that road. People drive really fast and are not expecting pedestrians. However, my other worry is that this is a very white and conservative area. A lot of people have weapons. And my wife not only is out there protesting things that most people here agree with, but she will actively shout at people who drive by with Trump stickers on their cars. There have been a few times when people will shout at her. A few people have pulled over to argue with her. And if that happens, she does not try to de-escalate or anything. She will scream back at them. She has asked a few times if her kids can come with her. I said no because I was afraid someone could hurt or threaten them, and she agreed not to take them. But when I mentioned that it would be just as horrible for our kids if they lost their mom and unborn brother because someone hurts her, she brushes it off. No one has done anything physical yet, but there are some unbalanced people out there and it only takes one. She has also stopped doing therapy, stopped doing the workbooks her therapist gave her, and will not take her medication and did not get her prescription refilled. She says that she does not think there is anything wrong with her. There is something wrong with all the people out there who are not protesting. I asked her if she does not want to get better and be able to be happy, and she says happiness is not for her. Another thing is that this is affecting our relationships with our neighbors. We were already odd in this area. We are not white and my wife is Muslim. We sometimes get looks and I have felt like I have had to earn acceptance from the neighbors. People will almost never be directly rude to us, but if I say and my wife is a Muslim, I can tell that what they hear is, and my wife is a terrorist. If I said and my wife is a liberal Muslim, that would not go over much better. I have just kind of had to pretend I do not notice the reactions and keep being friendly until they decide my family is normal. I also try to always find a way to casually mention that my late mother was white and grew up in this area. However, I can tell people are acting different around me now. A few people avoid me. Some have awkwardly been like, "So I saw your wife the other day." I have not been getting as much gig work. And worst of all, one of my son's best friends is no longer allowed to come over to our house. They outright told me, he can come over here, but I do not want him to go to your house anymore. It felt like such a slap in the face, since I have babysat that kid so many times for free. Since Israel broke the ceasefire, it has been at its worst. She has been out there every day for hours. I feel so heartbroken for my kids, who do not understand, and for my wife, who is her own worst enemy. I cannot force her to get help, but I have no idea what else to do. She has at least been keeping up with her prenatal appointments, and she has promised me that when our son is born she will stop protesting, but I almost do not know if I believe her because it almost seems like she is not capable of that. How do I handle this? Commenter asked. Someone asked if the original poster's wife might have schizophrenia and if she seemed like she was having conversations with an invisible person. Opie responded, "No, she has never done that. I know what you are talking about. I see in-housed people do that a lot and my wife never does it." The therapist explained it better than I could. But basically, people with schizophrenia who think they hear God are actually hearing a voice in their head. But my wife does not hear a voice. She has obsessive thoughts about bad things happening in the world, and feels like she has to fix it. This started happening to her suddenly, and her own explanation for it was that it was a message from God, because she did not know any other explanation. But she does not actually hear a voice saying, my wife's name, I want you to go protest on the street." Commenter asked, people were saying the original poster should be more supportive of his wife's protests. Opie responded, "I am not trying to be flippant. I did not want to make my post too long and I figured it should go without saying that obviously, what is happening in Palestine is horrific. I know it triggers my wife because of things she experienced in her own childhood and things her family has experienced. I am not saying she should not protest at all, but I wish she would not do it in such a dangerous way and risk her own safety and the safety of our unborn son. I want her to be able to be happy and go to therapy so she can find a healthy way to deal with her emotions. Her emotions are totally valid, but the way she is dealing with it does not help her. Opie commented, in response to people saying he should be more supportive of his wife's protests. I am not trying to be flippant. I did not want to make my post too long, and I figured it should go without saying that obviously, what is happening in Palestine is horrific. I know it triggers my wife because of things she experienced in her own childhood and things her family has experienced. I am not saying she should not protest at all, but I wish she would not do it in such a dangerous way and risk her own safety and the safety of our unborn son. I want her to be able to be happy and go to therapy so she can find a healthy way to deal with her emotions. Her emotions are totally valid, but the way she is dealing with it does not help her. She is a good person and I love her so much. I really hope it does not lead to violence, but even without violence it is not a good road and I would be worried someone could hit her accidentally. There are almost no pedestrians there and she does not just stay in one spot. She walks and crosses a lot of areas that a lot of cars are coming in and out of with no street lights. I also wish she would only hold a sign and not scream at people, because she might scream at the wrong person who will be crazy enough to attack her. Update 3. I got like 15 people asking if my family is okay and several a-holes telling me to leave my wife. My baby son is safe and healthy. My wife is doing better. She had a healthy birth, but she developed postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. She told her therapist she was worried she would not be able to take care of the baby and would harm him. The therapist recommended she check herself into a mental hospital and she did. At the hospital they said her risk of actually hurting the baby is low and they were just intrusive thoughts and put her back on medication to manage them. She was only there for 3 days. She says she still feels pretty depressed and angry about what is happening, but she is a little more functional now. She has been back in therapy, doing an online support group, and taking her medication. She promised she would not stop taking it again without talking to me and her therapist first. She has been crocheting baby beanies to donate and doing a postnatal yoga video since her therapist recommended she do something physical to stay grounded. She has not protested since our son was born, but she does mostly wear protest shirts and has gotten in 2 public arguments about them. I am not going to ask her not to do that because both times it was the other person that started the argument and my wife is right. Me or one of my friends usually goes with her when leaves the house just in case anything happens. My wife officially lost her job and she is pretty devastated, but she knew it was coming. We do not know what we are going to do from here on, but we are just trying to enjoy this family time for now. Playing board games, watching cartoons, and reading books. Our oldest just started kindergarten. One thing that makes me happy is that my wife has been speaking to the baby in Somali and teaching our older kids some Somali and Arabic songs. Somali is her native language, but she never spoke it to our older kids before. I am never going to leave my wife. You cannot leave your loved one just because they get sick. And mental illness is a real illness just like cancer or diabetes. For the person who told me to leave her and get with my childhood friend, that would be horrible and I would never do that, and I have hardly even thought about that girl for months. My fiancé thinks that I do not know about him cheating on me. My background and credit check just went through and I am moving into my new apartment in 2 weeks. This happened 7 months ago. I work a not high-paying but decent job and picked up a second job. He thinks I am working for extra money to buy a new car. He left his email logged in on my laptop and I saw an ongoing conversation where a woman was sending him intimate pictures talking about meeting for intimate activities again. He agreed and made a date to pick her up a week from when she sent that email. I opened it because the subject was no strings attached intimate encounter. The kicker? He found her on Craigslist. Privately, I got tested, no sexually transmitted diseases. I stopped having intimate relations with him, but 1 month after I found the emails. Once I got the second job, I used being too tired as an excuse so he would not think I found out. But we used condoms because I told him I stopped taking birth control. So I am clean. Now I have more than enough money saved up to move out. It has been so hard holding back tears and looking him in the eye, but over the last few months I have fallen completely out of love with him. I put in my 2 weeks notice at my second job. I have suitcases in my trunk. Once the day comes and he is at work, I am packing all my things and leaving my ring on the dresser. I deactivated Facebook last month, but I blocked him before I did. I am going to block his phone number and Instagram account as well. I have spent months putting this plan together. I cannot wait to leave him confused and thrown off. Relevant comment. I hope if ever in the same situation I can be as strong and resourceful as you are. Opie commented, trust me, it is hard. I cried for hours when I saw that email, fighting my brain telling myself maybe it is nothing. It takes a lot for a person to do something to the point where you fall out of love. He did me a favor, that is how I managed to play dumb. Commenter asked, It is pretty awesome that instead of being devastating and letting that keep you down, you immediately started a plan. Opie responded, I had to. He is my first love. I am 24, he is 26. First serious relationship as well. On top of that, I have never lived alone, so I am very scared. Commenter asked, goodness, good for you. That is awesome. Cheating is terrible and is a sore spot for me, and I especially feel the Craigslist thing. I am sorry that happened to you, but super happy that you are taking care of things and not taking any of that nonsense. Good luck. Opie responded, it is fine, I am not mad. He is doing me a favor and teaching me a lesson that someone who can deceive you in such a way then act like everything is good is not someone to have in your life. Opie commented, hey everyone, just want to say that I am not going to leave a printout of his email when I leave, and I am not going to sell my engagement ring. I am 24 years old, I do not do stuff for revenge, and I do not want to spite him. He will just be left blindsided by his actions. I will post an update after I move to keep you all informed for the ones asking. I feel so liberated and free, and thank you for all your well wishes, it means a lot. Opie commented, everyone, I kept having intimate relations with him after I found out because I did not want to stop abruptly and have him suspect something. Also, I am not going to confront him or give him any explanation as some of you have suggested. He is the one who had an ongoing intimate relationship with another woman. He had 7 months to confess the truth to me. He had yet to tell me. He has every single opportunity to be honest, and the fact that he is smiling in my face acting like everything is all fine. Why on earth would I give him any indication that I'm leaving him? No, my goodness, absolutely not. Update 1. Hey everyone, some of you asked for an update, so here it is. I got an early move in and I just dropped the U-Haul back off. I waited until my now ex-fiancé went to work. I had my clothes packed the night before. I just needed to move most of my stuff. Even though we purchased our couch together, I'm going to let him keep it. I know he was very thrown off and confused when he got home. He had everyone calling me, including both my mom and his mom, asking if everything was okay. He was about to call the police. I told both my mom and his mom that I moved out because of personal issues. They both said okay. I told his mom we are over. No breaks here. I got a swarm of emails. Here are a few copied ones just to summarize his confused, sad, angry reaction. What is going on? Are you okay? Insert name. Please answer me. You gave me a heart attack. I thought you were dead. You are not going to answer my calls. You blocked me. Since he would not leave me alone, I sent one reply to him, that is that a no strings attached intimate relations. He finally left me alone, then bombarded my emails once again saying, you were snooping through my email? Can we just talk in person? I want to make this work. It was a dumb mistake. Of course I had to fight myself not to use bad language at him. But after about an hour he left me alone. Next week, once I get everything settled, I am going to show my parents the new place. My head and heart feels so much lighter. I am really happy. I am reading more, meditating. I thought that I would be forever broken, not good enough for anyone else, but I was wrong. Sometimes you need to get hurt really bad before you realize you have to get out for good. This was my breaking point, and I'm thankful that he did me the favor of showing me who he really is. Thank goodness I dodged this bullet. Thanks for the well wishes once again. Commenter asked, you should probably let some people you trust know why you are doing this. Opie responded, I told my family I moved. They do not need to know why. We are not married and we have no kids. We have no ties to each other to have to get other people involved. Commenter asked, you guys were engaged. Is not that enough of a tie-in for any family or good friend that knows you? Curious why they do not need to know, but here you are with your updated post, anonymously spilling your heart out with lots of detail about the whole situation to a room full of strangers. I understand that just because someone is family does not mean they have a right to your business. But you needed to drop some emotional baggage and chose Reddit as that venue. Perhaps consider opening up a bit to whoever you consider close. It will help in the long run. This was your first real relationship, and you have been absolutely blindsided. Just some advice from someone who has been there. Opie responded, thanks, I appreciate it. But like I said, I told his mom I am fine and I moved out because of personal issues. She will ask him eventually. Commenter asked, certainly dodged a bullet there. I commend you for your initiative and your ability to avoid contact with him. Hopefully you find someone a bit more worthy of your attentions. Opie responded, right now I just want to be alone and get used to living alone. I went straight from living with my mom to living with him. It is a new adjustment, but I'm going to get used to it. I have no intentions of getting with anyone right now.
That's all for today, besties.